Hello and thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I'm Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and this podcast is about my journey of exploring the making of livable cities for people. Urbanistica is in collaboration with AFRY Urban Planning and Design section here in Stockholm. And actually, this episode, I'm going to reflect about 2022. I want to say Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you had a great holidays and you enjoy celebrating the new year. Well, last year it was super interesting. I recorded the most numbers of episode in all these three seasons. So this one is season number 4. Previous year was season number 3. So many stories, so many people as well. I'm so happy to do that. And without you, I couldn't do that. So I will be happy if you do me a favor. If you're listening from Spotify, please rate the show. 5 stars will make me happy. So I love to see you rating the show, and also if you're listening from Apple Podcasts, please give us also hopefully 5 stars if you like this show. It took a bit of time to publish this episode because I changed the host, and now if you're listening to me from Spotify, you will be able to see this video. So now we're gonna do more podcast video, hopefully, and I hope the guest will be fine with that. So because many of them will are a bit like they don't want to do a video podcast. Many of them like to do only sound. I know because it's like video, you need to fix yourself, look good, and all of this, smile to the camera, and so on. But we'll try and we'll see how many guests I will have doing the video version of Urbanistica podcast. So let's say you're rated the show, and I'm happy and I'm grateful for you doing that. So let's reflect about what happened last year. In the front of me, I have my laptop, and also I wrote down some notes. So let's start with the placemaking Europe. I love this community and I'm part of it. So, beginning of the year, we wrote this publication after COVID City Global Charter, and we wrote a kind of manifesto about public spaces. And it was really interesting collaboration. It was me and many, many other very passionate placemakers. I have the episode and also the publication now. It's online. You can read it, and I think it's very helpful and very hands-on. So I recommend you to read it actually. Then we did placemaking in Helsingborg days. So I traveled to Helsingborg city in the south of Sweden. I met interesting placemakers, and also we talk about different topics. One topic was like now after 50 years of creating this placemaking movement. So what is next? Is placemaking a title? Is placemaker a title or no? Because like many of us, either like an architect and a placemaker, or an urban planner and a placemaker, or let's say a storyteller or illustrator, or a process engagement leader and a placemaker. So you're one thing, you have one title and placemaker. So we are thinking, is the next coming years we are having like a super niched people working only with the placemaking. Like when they introduce themselves, they're gonna say, "I'm a placemaker," not "I'm an architect," or I'm trained as an urban designer and a placemaker." So this is interesting. And also we talked about there is not a specific course for placemaking. Like in case you want to get to know what is the placemaking method about, there's not an official like academic work in a university, or like another part of organization giving this kind of courses. In different cities, in different countries, of course, like, the system is different. Like the rules in Stockholm are not the same in South Africa, Johannesburg, or in Baghdad, Iraq, or I don't know, in Sao Paulo. So that's why we don't have like so we have like different courses within the countries. Like in Sweden, we have placemaking Nordics. Maybe in other countries they have also placemaking. Japan, that is related to this kind of to this specific city, but we don't have a universal placemaking course or placemaking educational program in university. So maybe this is going to be something to do for the next coming years, that as placemakers, after 50 years of doing placemaking, make the movement more professional, producing so many handbooks, having method, process, and so on. Maybe the next step is to take it to the next level, is to make it more official, make it part of make it a program in a university, or make it like a course online. Recently, I saw that there is an organization giving a placemaking method, and this is a kind of more like this official placemaking course that you can take, and after that you get a certification and so on. So this is one of the interesting topics that we discussed, and then moving to placemaking week, and it's super interesting experience. I love it, and I really recommend you to join placemaking week this year, 2023. So the last year we went to Pontevedra. It's a city in Spain, a car free city. Like the inner city is a car free, and this is actually my first time traveling after COVID with the podcast. So it was interesting because when I arrived to Madrid, uh, in the train station, when I wanted to take the train from Madrid to Pontevedra, they have a scanner to scan, like if you have, uh, I don't know, guns or drugs or something. Um, the one that exists in the airports in Spain, I saw they have it in the train station when you take a train from one region to another region and so on. So the police stopped me, and they saw all my microphones, the podcast equipment, and everything. And they be like, wait, 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 stop. They didn't talk English. So they stopped me. They open the bag and they start to see all these microphones and all these tools. And they be like, they start to look me in a very, in a way that they made me feel like I'm a spy. And I'd be like, okay, now I understand. Because I didn't have any paper or something that a kind of invitation, because I told the placemaking week organization, no, I don't need it, it's fine. So I tried to explain to them that this is a podcast and this is a radio podcast. I'm going to Pontevedra. I'm going to record this, but they didn't understand. And they one police call another police. They start to flip around with the microphones, with everything. And then I became a kind of smart, and I took my phone up. I go to Spotify and I told them, look, this is me. I'm doing a TV show. And then I play one episode, and they understand. So they let me go to Pontevedra. It was very shocking in the beginning, because I was looking forward to this trip, and this was the first thing I see. Police stop me and start to ask me, and I don't understand. So I become like, no, no, not please, not from the beginning. This is gonna be a good journey, so please don't make any sad memories for me. So I went to Pontevedra. The city is very beautiful, and this is my first time being in a city with a kind of completely car-free inner city. I guess you have been like me in some cities when they have a car-free city center, or the old town and so on. They closed and there are no cars. But this in Pontevedra, you have a big area of the city which was car-free city, like it's still car-free city. But the experience is a bit special, because I never experienced this kind of a large area of car-free city. It felt like I'm in a bubble. I don't hear cars. I hear only people. So for me, I think, or I thought that time there was something missing. I'm not used to this. I'm used to have super crowded streets, cars moving, people, and so on. So it's always noisy, like super noisy as well. So when I was there, I felt that there's something missing. And this experience, there's something wrong here. And then I realized, I'm not used to be in a kind of a city where there are no cars. Of course, there are some for logistic and so on, police, taxi, and for the goods. But it was difficult for me to understand this. But after a few days, I got used to it, and it's super amazing experience, to be honest. You go from the hotel, then you walk around in the city, you go buy food, attend different sessions, walk around, and completely like the city is literally your city, and the priors to pedestrian and bikes and so on. So you feel like the king of that city. I really recommend you to visit Pontevedra to experience this, and it's a very beautiful historical city. The placemaking week was amazing. It's like meeting of people with so much passion to make cities for people. And then what I like with the placemaking was, or what I like with with the placemaking is that when you see people, they have different position, like the mayor or the CEO or a placemaker and so on. And no matter like what where you are in the hierarchy, we all of us we meet as a team who trying to make a better planet, make better cities. So there is you don't feel like this kind of hierarchy. I'm with my suit and you're there, and you can feel the language between each other, like the hierarchy between each other. So you feel like this is a family of. I think this time in the placemaking week we were kind of 400 to 500, I think. So you meet everybody from Europe, mostly from Europe. It's like Placemaking Week Europe, but also from other countries. So I really love it because everyone trying to share what they did, trying to exchange contact numbers, trying to exchange like okay, what can we do together. It's not like I come to placemaking week, I listen to you, then I go back home. Of course many of us do that, but as well like how can we collaborate, how can we together apply for a fund. How about you taking a look on my handbook and do a project, and we can be part of this project, and so on. So we're trying out like it's really trying to collaborate. And also like if you go to the Facebook group, you see like many of us connected to each other, like it's a one global team. So I did the podcast there, and we emailed everyone who came to Pontevedra with the Placemaking Week Europe and asked them if they want to share their stories on Urbanistica podcast. And I put in my email, and suddenly I got so many emails. Everyone wants to share their story. I'm grateful, and also I apologize for people who like we couldn't make it because of the lack of time. But it was super interesting because I scheduled like the entire days doing podcasts. And what is fun with that is that I meet new people. Usually, I do podcasts with the placemaking community. We have some people like always on the media and so on. But this time was super special because I interviewed people that I had no idea about them. So, and they also super brave to come to the podcast talk in English. We had some language barriers, but it's not like the big deal. So it's fine. I understand them. They understand me. So it was super nice to meet many others from placemaking community. And yeah, so we had this podcast set up, super nice, facing the square. We were doing the podcast, people listening to us, and so I didn't attend so many sessions, just like a few of them, like super interesting. And also I delivered a session about like personal branding for placemakers. How can they tell their story, and how can they contribute and fulfill their mission and vision. So it was super fun because Placemaking Europe organizers came to me and told me like, Stafa, you should also go to the sessions, listen and so on. At that time, I felt like I'm the king of placemaking because the sessions, like people from the sessions, come to me and summarize what they did in this podcast episode. So I felt like I don't need to go to the sessions to listen, but because like the people from the sessions, the session leader, come to the podcast and they share with me everything. So I felt like, whoa, I'm so cool. But I really appreciate. Maybe next time I'm going to attend more sessions as well. So kind of put more time to experience the different session, even if what I did here. But my mission is to listen to stories from people. Like this is my mission here. This is also a big part of my mission. I'm not doing only placemaking project here in Sweden, but also I'm trying to empower the community when they share their stories using the podcast as a platform. So this was about placemaking. I love it. I love the city. I love the week. I met so many people, and I recommend you to visit. or to take part of Placemaking Week 2023. It's super nice. You meet so many people, you learn a lot, and the most important thing is that you feel this atmosphere of community. You're not there alone. You're not there as a stranger. Even if you're, I don't know, if you're from X country in Europe or out of Europe, when you just arrive to Placemaking Week, you are part of the community. You meet so many people, and you will really enjoy it. And there during Placemaking Week, I talked with Carlos Moreno, found or the godfather of 15-minute city. Yes, and with Carlos, we talked about 15-minute city and the implementation of the 15-minute city. So when he said that you cannot just choose a small area of your city and say, I'm going to do a 15-minute city there. Because a 15-minute city, it's a concept for the entire city. If you don't integrate it in the entire city policy and make a strategy to transform the entire city, you will not be able to succeed in only developing or changing one area. Because everything is connected. And if you're just working on one area, then you're gonna be unequal and unfair to the other parts, other areas within the city. So he stressed this point so much is that we really need to work with the entire city. We really need to make a strategy with the entire city. Is not only working on a one street or one public square or one area. You need to have a vision and a mission and a strategy of how this city gonna be a 15-minute city. We talked a lot as well about when I do. Let's say we have you have a city, and when you gonna have 15-minute city, like let's say this area is gonna be a 15-minute city area. This area is gonna be a 15-minute city area. We're going to create a kind of bubbles, because then you have everything you need in your daily life. You have your market, maybe working space, education, parks, and so on. So there is no reason that you move out of your bubble to go to another 15-minute area bubble. So I asked him this question, and he told me that's why we need to work with the entire city as one 15 minutes, because then every 15-minute city, let's say bubble or area, is going to be unique. When we see what is the uniqueness with this area, what can this area contribute to attract the other people from other areas, and that's how we can avoid the kind of segregation. Because then, let's say here in Stockholm, we have almost the same concept, that you have everything close to you. So maybe there is not so big reason for you to take a metro to go to another area to just visit, not to work, but maybe just to explore it. So this kind of place branding also needed here, because let's say this area have a museum, the other area have a theater, or the third area they have like another stuff that makes people just visit it or attract to it to explore it. So it was interesting talk with Carlos Moreno. You can listen to it, and then we talked a lot about storytelling, like with other placemaking community. Um, what words are we using when you communicate in our projects with people, social media, and so on? We need to be really careful with what we say, with what we mean, and not only go business as usual. Like there is an example about I think and if I remember correctly, we use a lot, like when we do community engagement processes, we say, hey, we are here to help you to identify, or we are here in the project to help the city, or we are here like to help this world with help. And then we talked about like why do we say help? Do we feel sad for them and we help them, or do we feel ourselves like really high up in the hierarchy and like we offer some help for the people? Why do we say help? Why we can't just say like we are here to co-create with you, to lead the process, or and so on, like to use other words, and like saying, hey, we are here to help you as a kids to deliver your message, something like this. So it's also like part of our responsibility. We're not like helping, but we are part of this co-creating. It's interesting, aspect on looking on how we communicate with each other and with the city and with people. Also, when we say um, this gonna be a walkable street, is it enough with saying like walkable? Do we need to add more? Like it's walkable, it's wheelchair friendly, and so on. Why we just stick with one thing? Why we just stick with this again, with this default standard white man physical ability? Like why we just only walk? What happened with a parent with a baby stroller, or with people with a wheelchair and so on, with physical challenges? So we need to be careful. We need to diverse, include also in the language we use. This was also a big part of the discussions or the podcast we talked about in Pontevedra. Also, other stuff was about like applying for fund. We had an organization that gave a huge amount of money to for like innovative projects and experimental projects and so on. And the guy, he told me like I can also see it because here in Sweden I work with the same kind as well, like an organization that give funds to architects. And the common thing is here, like not only in Sweden but maybe in Europe, not we as architects or urban practitioners, we are not really used to write this kind of applications to apply for fund to get money and to work with the projects. We usually like do the business as usual, how to say, application for like a project within the city, and we got the client and we work. But we are not used to apply for this European Union funding, this huge big amount of money as well. And I think because the application process is very long, very complicated, you need several partners and from different countries, and each country they have rules, and you need to have a project owner or a project leader. You need to have a city, academy, sorry, university, private company, and so on. So it's like make it super complicated. And we talked about how do we open this up, how do we make it easier so urban practitioners can apply and see the opportunities in this kind of project as well. Not like it needs a lot of time to have a network, not only in your country but out of your country, like with the other European partners as well. So how do we make this easier? One is like making a platform or a network when you can meet other people. Also taking like making some criteria easy so you can easy, not easy, but you can join and apply for fund. And so removing the barriers. And this is something we as urban practitioners need to practice as well. Because there are so huge amount of money from the country, from European Union. At the same time, there are same kind of organization applying and or same kind of professions applying and getting this money, the huge amount of money, and it's just because they are good and they are used to fill this kind of big applications. And of course, they have an interesting ideas. It's not that they just apply and get the money, but they have an interesting ideas. But like you can see almost the same kind of organizations applying every time. For instance, here in Sweden, with the foundation I work with that gives money to architects, we can see clearly there are some studios or organizations the same and the same applying every year. Sometimes you can see a couple of a new organization or studios or architects sending their applications, but what we clearly see, you see like these organization or studios every year applying because they are used to, they know how to fill the application, and they see it also as opportunity for them. It's not like, oh, innovation, oh, funding. No, we are not really into this kind of business. Let's stick to our business as usual projects. So it was interesting talk actually, like talking about applying for funding and so on. Um, yeah, I hope you're gonna listen to the stories. We already, I think, published more than 15 different episodes from Pontevedra. So just tune in, listen, and please don't forget to share it and to give us 5 stars. So this was Pontevedra. I'm looking forward to do the Placemaking Week 2023. Next was Urban Future conference in Helsingborg city. And Urban Future is also like a conference with a focus on city development as well. Um, Super cool. This was my first time attending this. Super professional as well when it comes to everything like the communication pre the program, the quality of speakers, food, organization, logistic, everything, the schedule, the application when you can see your sessions that you're gonna attend and you can connect with other people. It's so like it's super super professional. And I did also like a collaboration with them, did podcast with many of their guests, um, famous people. I met many big names there as well that I didn't imagine to meet, so which was nice, especially after COVID. I was at home and then was dreaming about meeting all these urban practitioners. So, and after COVID, here we go. So we did an interesting collaboration. I talked with different people from different countries. Interesting talk with Mercedes Benz. We talked about how they look, what they think about the future, the car-free city. Are they going to continue produce the same amount numbers of cars? The role of car in the future, and it was interesting because they are like the guest talked about they're going to move to more electrical cars, like more environmental friendlier than what's now, like gasoline and so on. And also, they believe a kind of in a car-free city center, but not entire car-free because they're we going to need the logistic, and car is like still a symbol of freedom where you can take it to go to the like areas with a bad public transportation. So it was an interesting talk. I recommend you to listen to it to see the perspective of a car producer, how they look and how they see the future of our cities. And they were very like happy to collaborate with cities and to make actually strategies. Like as a car manufacturer company, they're not only producing car, but they want to be part of shaping the future of the city, like part of this urban planning and community development. And which I see it's super interesting because everything before started with the one white man planning the city, and now after so many years suddenly you see like so many people, so many actors interested in developing the city together. And yeah, it was super interesting. I met Carlo Ratti from Italy, working a lot with AI. How do we implement artificial intelligence and so on. So I like the conference. A lot of interesting ideas. There was an idea also about we do a lot of green certification for buildings and certificate our building. This has gold, this has silver, and so on when we build a new building or maybe like renovate an old building. But the thing here is that how about the people who is going to work in this building or live in this building? Are they also certificated? Do the people and the building match in the level of sustainability? So, okay, I have a green building certificated and really great with energy, waste management, and all this stuff, sensors and lighting, and you name it. But then I have suddenly people who has no idea about how to use it or what is this building about, and so on. So there was a like a lady that I interviewed in the Urban Future, and she came with this kind of certification for people before they move into a certificated building. The idea is interesting. So you give like a kind of course for people before they get the key to enter the building and they own the flat or office or you name it. So you certificate build people as well. Then you have a building and people certificated and sustainable and so on. I like the idea because I saw it here. We are I live in Sweden in in an area like was built in 1960, and then they renovated the buildings and so on. But I see that people didn't really catch what the property owners did, like made it more sustainable, energy efficient, with the lighting, with all the installed sensors, with the different waste management stuff. So I was like, okay, but they put so much money on upgrading the building, but they actually forgot to inform the people about what's happening now and what's the new way, or how they can upgrade the way of their way of living as well and make it more sustainable. So like it was a kind of wasted money. Like, okay, you renovated and you did all this stuff, but you didn't really talk or inform or educate the people living there. So it was a nice idea from Urban Future. And also in Urban Future they have this night called Fuck Up Night, where they select like speakers to talk about like big mistakes they did and how we other can learn. And it's like a stand-up comedy with the urban planning and design and so on. So I really liked it. This is like my first time experience this kind of um, talk. It was super fun. They share their mistakes and how they fix it and what should we avoid. But when they talk, it was a really nice setup and super fun setup. I like the Urban Future. Hopefully, gonna do more collaboration this year in Stuttgart. Yeah, it was nice. It was really great experience meeting professional speakers from everywhere, not only from Europe, and so many interesting stories and so on. The difference between like Urban Future and Placemaking Week Europe, Urban Future selected one building, and there we had like all the sessions and so on, like three stores of building. I had my podcast studio there in the same building. It was like waterfront, super beautiful building, and then um, mm, there were some sessions and visit when we left the building and went to see the city. In a placemaking week like the last one, we had different buildings within the city. So you have one session here, one session there. My studio podcast was part of like a university building. So you're not only gathered in one building. What I see here, like, of course, there's like plus and minus in everyone, but what I like, what I prefer is that when you in the city and when you split the sessions in different part of the city, so we as a visitors, we really enjoy and explore the city, moving from point A to point B and experiencing what's in between and so on. So I love like the idea of splitting the sessions, but then it's a challenge because you need to take public transportation, you need to do the timing right. There's a huge possibility of you missing this. I think this kind of concept worked good in Pontevedra because it was a car-free city and you could walk actually, and um, which was like less amount of that you're gonna make mistake or miss a bus, or the taxi will be stuck in a traffic jam and so on. uh, I don't know, like this concept doesn't work in every city because then, as you know, when you attend the session in point A, then after the session you stay to talk with people to exchange and so on. Then you're gonna miss the next session because then you need to take the bus to point B if point B was not so close. In Pontevedra, it was nice. They were like a kind of close to each other. At the same time, we could like experience the city, and this is what I want as a visitor. I'm here to see what's happening in the city, to take part of the culture of the city, food and so on. So I really like it, and I maybe this is also a recommendation for people doing this kind of conferences. See if there's a possibility split up the different sessions in different buildings and areas, but make sure that like the time, the schedule is not so stressful. So this was about Urban Future, and then I did a collaboration with the H22, the making of smarter city here in Helsingborg. This entire movement to transform the city, the city authorities, the organizations, and make it more smarter, just to make a city for people. It was interesting, very interesting talk with many of the people here, with many of their partners. And then what they stressed is that yes, we have sensors, we have smart platforms, we are thinking technology, but all this based on people's need and sustainability. Like you don't design a platform just because everyone else designing a platform, but this is efficient. You can see data, and when you have data, when you can measure stuff, then you can make a good decision and see what is happening. But everything is based on communicating with people, with the community, talking with people, and so on. So it starts with that. You don't say, like, it's about innovation in H22 project in Helsingborg city. It's about innovation, and you don't start with telling, yes, we're going to be super innovative, we're going to lead the other cities here. It's actually, we start not only by talking but by doing. Like you have a strategy, you have a vision, you have a mission, you have a strategy, you allocate a budget, assign people to work with this innovative strategy or innovative movement. At the same time, here I see a lot of studios and organization. They say, "Yeah, we work with innovation. We try to do this. We try to do this, and so on." But actually, when you see the reality, they don't have a clear strategy. You know, they don't have like people working with making or this transformation, like working and making things more innovative. So like the outcome from the talks is that if you want to work with innovation, you need to have a strategy, you need to include the people working with the organization, and together put goals and give people the time, the budget to work and to fulfill and to approach what you decided on. So it was interesting actually talk. I became every time super wise after talking to one of H22 partners, because a lot of digitalization, technology, sensors, the way they think is not the same as we urban planners think, or urban practitioners. It is interesting how different backgrounds come together and work with the city. I really enjoyed the collaborations. So yeah, you can find a lot of them of the episode there. More, yes. I talked with Tigran Haas, the amazing professor here in KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology. We talked about academia versus the real world, like the studios, the organization that working more with the practical way on city development, not only the theoretical way. And we talked a lot about how universities now, not all of them, of course, many of university or this academia is more like closing in the students, working with giving them a lot of theory, but not so much connecting them to the reality, to how is it actually out of university when you work with city development, what kind of processes and what kind of challenges and so on. So so both me and him agreed that university really need to open up for students to be outside of university, to do more projects with municipality, with the studios, with organizations, to be part of the reality, because not all the students gonna study PhDs when they are done with their masters. They are going to be part of the world, this machine that's making city for people. So why we give them theory for 2 years or for 5 years, and then suddenly when they are out there, they have no idea how to deal with this competitive world, software programs, processes, limited budget, and so on. Of course, universities should give this opportunity for students to be creative, like don't think so much about the budget, about the economy. It's fine that you can be imaginary, because this going to develop our skills and imagine of creativity, and this is great. At the same time, I think sometimes we some courses or some studios create too much of visionary process when you can do crazy, super crazy stuff. And I think this the bad side of this kind of course is that yes, you learn to be creative, to solve problems, to use crazy ideas. But actually, when you're out here and working with city development, you can't use the same kind of creativity, or you're not used to think more logical, because you're always thinking abstract and with these amazing crazy ideas that not really linked to reality. So it was about, as it was a talk about how do we connect reality with the university. And university, of course, is not like something fantasy, but I mean, like, how do we work with more case based theory? Like, you have a theory, and then you go do something with your theory, use a case from reality, and so on. So you develop both skills, like the one in academia, but also the one out in reality. Because personally, me, I study in three different universities, so many courses, so many programs as well, a lot of theory, some of projects. But when I came and start to work, I'd be like, that's was sad, because I study like 5 years, and actually I can take only like very, very few courses with me now when I start to work. Of course, it has to do with what kind of job I got and what kind of course I study. And I understand university, they put so many different courses, so they build a foundation so everyone can be part of it. Not everyone's going to be urban planner and work in a corporate business company and so on. But at the same time, I felt like, okay, I wasted so much time of studying like this kind of useless theory that is not really related to reality. So yeah, so it's about how do we find the balance, and especially now, like how academia can upgrade their program, their courses with this digital and distance learning. So many Zooms, lectures, and so on. What if there will be kind of how to say shortcut for people, for practitioners, that you don't need to do like 2 years of master. Maybe you do 1 year, 1 year of master, which is only dedicated to practitioners. How academia can upgrade their system and make it like up to date. What happened with theory? How can they link it to cases? How can they collaborate with other organizations, cities around them? So it's very, very interesting talk with the professor. I recommend you to listen to it. And it's about like how do we upgrade academia, and how do we make the organization part of this academic work as well. We also talked about why 15 minute city became so viral, like went so viral. um, all of us maybe have an idea about how to develop a city. Many of us as urban practitioners, we see many people wrote books, came with concepts, strategies. How do you make this city for people? How do you make this city for children? How do you make inclusive city for all people? So like we have seen so many different books, so many different handbooks, so many different ideas, so many different famous people within urban planning and design coming with ideas, but none of them became so viral or went so viral like Carlos Moreno idea about the 15-minute city. And we were thinking about like even Tigran, he has maybe some concept, or I have some concept, but why it stays on the table? What happened? Why nobody? Why there is no city said yes, we're gonna work with this, and then suddenly it became viral, and all cities on this planet says, oh, this 15-minute city is good. I mean, or this concept is good, like how they are doing now with the 15-minute city concept. Many of cities, they are on the bus on this journey of making or transforming their cities to a 15-minute city. So we thought about like, okay, there are some points. The one point is like the concept makes sense. It's a solid. You can implement it in any city, and it's a sustainable concept, and also it's logical. It's not super hard to implement it. It's not like this you need so many digitalization or rebuilding so many parts of the city and so on. Like the concept is easy to implement, easy to understand before you implement it. So it's easy for mayors to understand it, for politicians to understand it, and it makes sense for people as well. It's not only you implement it, but then um, people, communities will not gain something out of it. So it's also beneficial for people, for the environment, but that you need a political aspect to make a concept go viral. In the 15-minute city concept, the mayor of Paris liked it and saw that it makes sense and wants to implement it in Paris. That's why it became so viral, because now there is also this uh, element of power in this concept. So let's say you have a concept and it makes sense, but if you don't convince the decision makers to make it happen, then your concept is not really will not get so much attention. So let's say the 15-minute city, if Paris will not tell the other cities that we're going to work with it, it will not get so much attention, even if it makes sense. So you need also this element of a powerful politic aspect to so your book or your strategy will go viral. Yeah, it's I think it's interesting talk. You can also listen to it. I'm here like not trying to not tell all the details because I love that you listen so you get the exactly message. Maybe I'm here missing some one or two points. But I don't know if you have a concept, maybe maybe you should convince a mayor. And also like in Sweden we have the 1 minute city, and it's a work done about by many partners, and it was the leader was this department of innovation, the Swedish innovation agency, and it has like a powerful position, and they invested a lot in communication and in marketing and writing on the concept in English. That's why it's very famous, the 1 minute city concept. So the communication and the marketing part of the job is very important. So yes, you have a concept, but you need to talk about it, and in English, of course, because in French or Italian or Swedish, it will not be enough to spread it to the entire world. So you need to communicate your concept, your ideas in English, and you need to keep talking about it. 1 week or 1 month or 1 year is not enough. You need always to keep talking about it. Some people say, but I don't want to repeat what I say last month. The thing is that we people, we need to be reminded of the same thing. Like if you look at Jan Gale's books, he's telling the same thing about how do we make spaces, places, cities for people. If you follow all his books, it's about the human dimensions and the human experience, and how do we pay attention to how human function. But he is repeating this, of course, with a new knowledge every time. But the idea is the same: cities for people, and it's not about like you need to come up with a new thing every single time and telling completely new things. Tell the same story and upgrade it, but you need to keep talking about your story or your concept in order for people to get it, because we already have so much on our plate, and we really need someone to remind us and to show us again and again and again. I think this has so much to do also with the marketing. Like if you see, I don't know, Coca-Cola or some, we know like what's Coca-Cola selling. Why? So why they keep doing advertisement every month when it's Christmas and so on? It's just to remind us, okay, you need to buy this. Same thing with the concept. You have a concept, talk about it, so you remind us about your concept. Yeah, we have in the last year, I had talks about how people finding a job here in Sweden, it's a big challenge for them, like coming from the war or just moving because of their partners, or they studied here, and different reasons. The biggest barrier is the language. If they don't speak Swedish, it's super hard to get into the market, because as you know, a lot of urban planning and urban design related, it has so much to do with documentation here. and everything here is in Swedish. Like all the official documents are in Swedish. So if you don't speak Swedish, it's gonna be super tough to enter the market. And that's why so many like architects, planners have difficulties to get the job here because of the language, and because like basics, you cannot really survive with learning super basic Swedish. You need the kind of advanced language. Maybe for some architects works because they work a lot with concept and so on, but you need the language as well, and then you need the network because it's not easy to interact with the market if there is no reason. Everyone is busy here. So it was a lot of interesting episode related to how you can get a job here in Sweden. And there is actually an organization working specifically with this topic to help people to get job in Sweden. Um, like give them some advice, some networks, and sharing job opportunities and so on. Yeah. What other episode we have? We have a Young Gale versus AI. This is the most listened episode, most popular episode last year. I talked with my colleague. They installed sensors to analyze people flow and to see how people move so they can improve the space. And then we compare it to Young Gale. So to the or we compare the sensors, the data, and the AI with people. In that episode, we say, what if we put Young Gale and then we put AI? Who is going to win? I recommend you to listen to that episode. It's super cool. And in the end, Young Gale win the competition. He wins the competition because AI so far, like it's not this so much developed to understand us people, but AI can can get in data, can analyze data, but there are so many other aspects that AI is missing. Like one day the data were like zero, there were no people on the streets, and it affected so much the study, the research, or the how AI think, and the result is because it was rainy and not so many people show up. So it was before they add the aspect of the weather to the AI. So all of this stuff you need to AI needs to understand about how we people function. Interesting talk. I recommend you to listen to it. It was fun to listen to how you gather data, how you clean data in order to understand data, and then how you link it to the physical space. Like how do you create this place when people love to be there, and so on. Like why parents stop there, why they are why they have this kind of movement in this street and so on. Interesting. Like it's between we compare between AI and the human way of observing and analyzing people's movement. More, we talked a lot of smart city, mission oriented innovation. How do we work with data? How do we educate our team? We talked about sounds in the city, toilets in the city of Stockholm as well, offices. What's next? Like healthy cities for people with physical challenges, and also talk with the people living on a boat and compare it. How is it to live on a land comparing to how is it to live on water? So what's very interesting season. I think I missed a lot of other topics as well, but I recommend you to go back to listen to it, share it with your network, and also give us a 5 stars. It was really I'm grateful for the collaboration with AFRY because they give me this beautiful studio. They give me the time to work with this, to invite people, to talk with people, to listen so many inspiring stories. And also, I'm grateful for you listening to Urbanistica podcast because if you didn't listen, then there is no point of doing all of this. So I'm very happy that you're listening to me, to my guest, and I will be grateful also if you share it as well in your network. If you have a story, send it to us, and hopefully we're gonna find a date to talk about your story. I apologize because I get emails, and sometimes there is the podcast is already booked. Let's say for the coming 6 months. Actually, now it's fully booked until the summer. But there always I have a list, and when you send me like your story, I put it on the in the list, and then when I see okay, it's time to talk about this topic, so I reach out to you, and I tried to reach out to so many people, they didn't reply back or they are busy. I don't know. Sometimes there is like unluck in the communication or or on the process to get to trying to get people. Like I have some list with people, and since I started the podcast, every year we're trying to find the time that's suitable for me and for the guest to record, but we can't. We just can't. I don't know what's there. So like I have my supervisor from Mandaworks when I did my thesis, Patrick. So I tried to get him to the podcast. He's actually living here in Stockholm. But I don't know, every year we say hello, okay, let's do this, and then he get busy, I get busy, we schedule a meeting, then I get sick or he has a project and so on. So now it's like for the fourth year I'm trying to get him. Let's see if I will manage to do that. But I'm grateful I'm doing this. I'm grateful that you're listening to this or watching this as well. I'm trying to upgrade it. This year we're gonna do video podcasting. It's more engagement when you watch us. It's I think it's nice when you see the people behind the microphones, how they talk, how they look like, and so on. So you get this atmosphere or being with us here as well. I recommend you always. I encourage you to contact the guest when you have a story, when you work on the same field. It's like this kind of network. I know also many students they do their thesis just by getting in touch with my guest, or many people getting job when they are getting in touch with some of my guests and so on. So there's a lot of possibilities for collaboration. And my advice to you is like, let's say you listen to one episode, and then you think this woman is amazing and she has a great story, but you don't know what to say. But it's nice that you just want like to connect with her. So you connect with her on LinkedIn and you send her say I listen to you, and you talk with Mustafa. I think it's interesting. Thank you. And you don't know like by time you're gonna follow her on LinkedIn and so on. You see what she's doing, then you're gonna find collaboration possibilities. It's about like time. So because you build a relationship, a professional relationship, and by time you're gonna see, okay, but I can work with her here, or I can collaborate with her here, or you don't need to collaborate. You just follow, get inspired. But I really recommend you to expand your network, to see this podcast as a possibility and as a reason to say hello to people. Maybe you're a bit shy, or there's a barrier, or you think it's out of my comfort zone. Why should I talk to Carlo Ratti or to Carlos Moreno or so on? But this podcast is a reason, because all of them, they're very happy to collaborate, to talk, to inspire, and to get in touch with you as well. So use this podcast as opportunity to talk with urban practitioners. Many fun moments here, many sad moments there. This is part of the journey, but I will be happy to share it with you. um, Send me your questions, send me feedback. I'm really hungry for feedback all the time. I really love to develop this, take it to the next level. I'm not trying to copy like what others is doing. We have interesting podcast, very famous, also other new podcasts. Everyone has their own character, their own way of telling a story. What I'm trying to do, not to be a coffee, to be a copy of other podcasts, is just to be something unique. And your feedback is going to help me a lot. I got many feedback about the time is why it's like 2 hours or and so on. And as I mentioned, is for me it's important to talk with people behind cities for people projects. So I'm not interested here only about doing a project, but also about how my guest is thinking, how they look uh, to the world, to our cities, leadership, innovation. There's so much to talk about, not only not only about projects. For me, it's very important and interesting, like to create this networking, to know more about my guest, to understand, to follow their journey, why this professor became so famous, why this other professor stayed in their office and produced only papers without doing something practical. I don't know, like for me, I want to understand people. And this helps me a lot in my job as well. Like I'm working as an urban planner, and I love and I want to understand people in order to make cities for people. So I use every single opportunity when I talk to people to understand how they move, how they work, their hobbies, how they see the city, their needs, their dreams, and so on. But this season, I'm trying to flip it. So last seasons we started with this personal stories, and then we got into projects. But now we're gonna talk about projects. So if people wants to only listen to projects, they can listen, and then they can switch to other episode. And then we save the personal story to the end. So people who are interested to listen to learn more about leadership and other aspects in life, so they can stay with us to the rest of the episode. Hopefully this time is gonna work and many people gonna listen as well. And as I mentioned, I'm really happy to get feedback from you. Just text me. You can find my email, or you can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. So in the end, I love to say welcome to Urbanistica podcast season number 4. Welcome to Making Cities for People. Welcome to share your story with me, with our listeners from 140 countries. Welcome to listen to others' stories as well. Keep up the good work and keep loving cities.